Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the May Arch General Meeting. Thank you for joining us. I cannot believe it's May. I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose. This year is going by so quickly. I'm going to continue to admit people. Um, a couple housekeeping notes, as usual. Please introduce yourself, drop your name, and if applicable, your organization or company affiliation in the chat. A reminder to mute yourself when you aren't speaking. We're going to have time for Q&A and an open conversation a couple of times today during today's content, which is an opportunity to take yourself off of mute or drop those questions in the chat at any time or comments. A reminder that this is being recorded. You should have gotten a notification just so we can make it accessible to everyone. If you'd like to access this meeting later, or if you know someone that was unable to attend and would like to watch it later, it's always uploaded to the Arch YouTube page. So you can also go back and look at old meetings. If there's anything that you're trying to remember or a person's name, you can always go back and find that. A special note that we do not admit AI companions into this meeting. We do record the meetings, and as a matter of course, we want the opportunity to redact something if necessary in order to protect confidentiality. Today we have guest speaker Joe Mueller on behalf of the Louisiana Advocacy Coalition on Homelessness, who will be sharing information regarding legislative matters to be aware of, ways to get involved or more involved. I know many of you all already are in advocacy. We did reschedule our previously announced guests from the Alexandria VA healthcare system, under whose umbrella Acadiana falls for veteran homelessness services. And they're going to present to us soon, I promise. We're looking ahead to June. We will be doing a regional look back on the first half of 2025. So looking at data, looking at wins, ways to improve, etc. Before we begin, any other announcements? A reminder that hurricane season officially begins in 10 days. So if you haven't yet, take some time, please, to review and revise or develop, if necessary, your organizational and personal plans in the event that our region is affected. And a reminder that even when our region is affected because regions to the north, east, and west of us are also affected, in which case many evacuate to our area or we offer assistance. So as we work to care for others, we need to make sure that we are personally prepared and that everyone knows their roles, so that we aren't trying to figure that out in the midst of a stressful event. Also, please look out for an invitation to the June meeting for Acadiana Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster, also known as AVOAD or VOAD. We'll be sending it out to everyone on our mailing list as well, just this one time. So don't think that all of a sudden you're going to get unwanted emails. But for this initial beginning of hurricane season meeting, I will go ahead and send out that invite to everyone on this news, on our listserv as well. So if you're interested in learning more ahead of time, please reach out to me at elsa@archacadiana.org. I think all of you all probably have my email or possibly my cell. Do not hesitate. We need as many people on deck responding as possible. To that point, a bipartisan coalition of over 80 lawmakers sent a letter urging the administration to reinstate a federal disaster mitigation initiative that helped local communities like ours prepare for extreme weather events. It was addressed to the Department of Homeland Security. The letter called for the return of FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities, known as BRIC, the BRIC program. That program provides necessary funding to complete mitigation programs like upgrading and protecting wastewater and drinking water plants, upgrading bridges and road drainage. We know a lot about that. And strengthening infrastructure in rural and tribal communities. The lawmakers warned that halting that program would undermine our national infrastructure and resilience efforts, and it would leave vulnerable areas like ours without the tools to prepare for what we know are increasingly frequent and severe natural disasters. Um, 22 states and the District of Columbia have actually filed suit against the federal government demanding the release of BRIC funds. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that and keep you all apprised of how that moves forward. On the housing front, the National Association of Realtors published a new report called the Housing Affordability and Supply report, which analyzed inventory gaps and affordability. I'm going to put one particular graph up right now. The report shows that while housing inventory has increased nearly 20% from last year, so we're building more, it remains insufficient to meet demand, especially for, as we know, middle and lower income buyers. So affordability remains a major challenge, with only about 21% of homes being affordable to households earning $75,000 annually, which is far below pre-pandemic levels. So as you can see, this first column, less than 15,000 to 500,000 is household income. And so you can see that the number of missing listings, just looking at 75,000, is under 415,000 listings. That's how short we are. To reach a balanced market, we would need those 416,000 more listings priced at or below the 255 mark, which is what's needed. 255 is the price point. Additional layers of regional disparities persist, as we know, here in Louisiana, and rising home prices and mortgage rates. It limits access for many buyers. So yes, many of our clients are not as close to home ownership as we might want. But for those that are able or dream of being able to own their own homes, it continues to be out of reach. So I'm going to actually drop the full report into the chat if that is something that you would like to learn more about. Copy. There you go. The next thing that I wanted to share, and honestly, I'm trying to share both things that we can be excited about and things that we need to be worried about, and some things that I think are maybe a little bit more off your radar, rather than just talking about the things that many of us are already know about and are engaged with. So coming up, there is a free online course for caring for older adults experiencing homelessness. This is specifically for service providers, but they are really expansive about what they consider to be service providers. So if you're on this call and you're interested, please go ahead and register. We know that more and more older adults are being forced into homelessness, and it takes a special skill set to serve this population. So to meet the need, the National Alliance to End Homelessness Center for Learning is offering free enrollment for its online Caring for Older Adults Experiencing Homelessness course, and that free enrollment is through June 18th. Learners have 60 days after the enrollment to complete the course, so you can pace. It's a self-paced course. And so I'm going to include that link, drop that link now in the chat. Copy. And you can enroll yourself, you can enroll your entire staff, you can enroll stakeholders in your community. But if you want to enroll multiple individuals, scroll down and look for the bulk purchase option at checkout. And by purchase, they mainly mean reservation. So again, that's free training, always a good thing to do. Please take advantage of it. And then as we continue looking at what's happening nationally, we want to be looking at protecting the equal access rule. So the equal access rule ensures that HUD's housing programs are open to all eligible individuals and families, regardless of family composition, sexual orientation, gender identity, or marital status. The equal access rule is still in effect, okay? So as such, if you're a provider, you should continue to admit people experiencing homelessness to your shelters based on their self-identified gender and family composition. So originally, HUD published this rule in 2012 in response to challenges of families being separated at shelters. So family members such as fathers, teenage boys, and grandparents could often not access the same shelter as other family members. This rule ensures that HUD's core programs are open to all eligible individuals and families. So if you or someone you know has faced barriers accessing shelter and housing resources based on gender identity, sexual orientation, or marital status, or you've benefited from more equal access to housing and services, they are asking, please, the National Alliance to End Homelessness to fill out a questionnaire if you are comfortable sharing your story. They are looking for those stories as they advocate. And I believe that you can choose to de-identify yourself or identify yourself. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. So that is one way to get engaged. Again, if you, there we go. If you have faced a barrier or if you've benefited from more equal access. You can also, if this is something that speaks to you, you can stay updated on threats to the equal access rule and actions that you can take by joining a partner organizing call. And so I'm going to drop that information right now in the chat about how you can get on the list for those partner organizing calls. And you can be an individual or you can be representing an organization. So again, we're trying to give you as many ways in this time to in this time of great challenge to advocate and to utilize your voice as much as possible. And I will include this information in a follow-up newsletter. With regard to Arch specifically, we've had some staffing changes at Arch. Leo Mesa Juarez, who I believe is on the call, has joined us as a housing specialist. Welcome, Leo. Rachel Hayden, who you have known through Share House specifically, has moved to a new position at Arch as the Director of Housing Stability Services. And Britt Doza, who has been working tirelessly in the Share House for several years, is now the Share House manager. So please direct any questions or requests to them at brit@archacadiana.org. I'm going to type that in right now. It's the same Share House number. If you have the number that Rachel has answered, Britt is now answering that number. Of course, if Rachel gets an email, she's going to forward it, but please let's let her transition to her new role as quickly as possible. So really excited about those updates. So now I see, so many great faces on this call and names in the chat. Just want to offer an opportunity to, man, I cannot get these slides in the right order today. There we go. So if you're starting any new programs or hosting any events, if you have any agency or group updates, do you know of any opportunities you want to let everyone know about? Any staffing opportunities, or maybe you have a place on your board that you think that you'd like to get that word out, or maybe you just have a challenge, you'd like some community sourcing for solutions. Now's the time. So just go ahead and take yourself off chat or drop it, take yourself off mute or drop it in the chat.
This is Colleen. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Colleen.
Hi, Colleen Narita with Catholic Charities of Acadiana. I just wanted to say that we have several positions open. We are hiring an outreach position and several case manager positions. So if anybody's interested in working for us, please go to our website and um, fill out an application. We are really looking to fill this position soon. Thanks.
And that's CatholicCharitiesAcadiana.org. Is that correct?
That I believe that is correct. Yes.
Okay, great. And listen, that's not just for those on this call. If you know of somebody who's looking for a position and you think it'd be a great fit, please let them know. It benefits our
Absolutely.
entire community of care when we are fully staffed. So anybody else have any updates or announcements or challenges you'd like to share?
I can give an update, well, not an update, but an announcement about a event coming up.
Perfect.
This is Roosevelt. Um, Hearing about the incident in New Iberia, we're going to be partnering with the Boys and Girls Club of Acadiana, the New Iberia location on Pershing Street, hosting a bullying and mental health event. We know mental health May is Mental Health Month, but this does hit close to home with the little boy experiencing bullying and his mom speaking out. We're going to have a lunch and learn with motivational speaker Rashad Bristow on next week, Friday. And we're going to also have a few vendors coming out. If any of the mental health vendors or insurance vendors are on this call, please reach out to me. And you are more than welcome to come and join us and share that resource information. My number is 337-983-8345. Also with this, I guess we could say affordable housing, trying to get people in. I do work one-on-one with a lot of our private landlords. And matter of fact, I always say it's a good win. We still we have a few landlords that do work with me in getting people in homes. And matter of fact, we just have a family who's getting in a house. So we do have people who do work with us in the area to help get those families off the street and out of cars. So if anybody needs or know of anyone that needs of apartments or some housing, we still have people out there that do help out to the best of their ability with making sure we can get people off the street, our children and families. Reach out if anyone needs anything.
Perfect. Can you drop your phone number and email in the chat? I wrote it down, but just in case someone wants to jot it down now.
Sure.
Thank you. And a reminder, even if, something sounds adjacent to the work we do, we can all benefit from as much education as possible. So keep that lunch and learn on your radar. And then I saw that Stephanie dropped in the chat a flyer about a free veteran resource fair that's going to be on Saturday at the Domain Rec Center. And she did indicate that if you that their table's still available. So if you work with veterans, please contact her. And Stephanie, if you want to drop how you would like people to contact you in the chat, that'd be fabulous. And you can also download easily from the chat that flyer and put it on your social media page. So if that's something that you can do, that's a pretty easy, quick win. Make sure that everybody finds out about these opportunities. Thanks, Rose. All right,
Good
any
af-
other announcements?
yes, good afternoon. This is Linda Granger with Trinity See Me Church. And I just want to inform everyone that Trinity See Me Church will host services on Saturday, May 31st. And this is involving the Mental Health Mental Health Awareness Month. And we will have host services Saturday, May 31st at 12 noon, recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month. And our topic, we will discuss how our faith can be a source of strength and healing, but we will encourage everyone to seek both spiritual and professional help. So we are inviting everyone to join us that Saturday, May 31st at 12 noon, and Trinity Semi Church is located at 604 Lee Avenue, and our pastor is Reverend Maggie C. Banks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Linda. And if you have not had an opportunity to join a service there, it's such a historic congregation, and they give back so much to the community. And I commend you for uplifting the message that that everybody needs a combination of both spiritual and professional help when they need help. So thank you for that. Um, Anyone else have any announcements that they'd like to make before we move on?
Hey, Elsa, sorry. I've been digging around trying to find some specifics, which I haven't been able to locate. It's been kind of a crazy morning, but this is Melinda Taylor with Lafayette Habitat for Humanity. And I did want to let everybody know that we are moving forward with the HUD Healthy Homes Production Grant. Everything seems to be steadily advancing, which is exciting. And that's a fairly substantial grant of a little over $1.8 million to do critical home repairs for at least 65 local families. And our target area is the core neighborhoods in Lafayette. We are still in the process of finishing the program documentation to HUD satisfaction, which is basically the program design and policies and procedures and all the things they have to sign off on. So we won't be rolling it out to the community for probably a couple of months until we get all that solidified, and we'll start taking applications sometime after that point, but I'll keep you posted on that. But we're very excited to be moving forward with that. And for those of you who work with people or organizations within the core neighborhoods, if you know of somebody who is these are owner occupied repairs. So for people who own their home but have deferred maintenance or issues that need to be addressed with the building envelope or systems of the house, this is going to enable us to help a number of those people. So we'll keep you posted as more information comes out about that. And just check our Facebook page for additional updates. And in the spirit of Rose sharing the event that she just shared, we have a fun event coming up, and I cannot find the day that it's happening, but you need to check our Facebook page for this one. Gino Delafosse, who many of you I'm sure know, is doing a concert, a benefit concert at our Restore on Evangeline Thruway. So we're going to be clearing the decks up there. This will be happening in June, and going to have the floor open for dancing. He's going to be there for 3 hours to do a really nice long concert, and it should be a lot of fun. So it is a suggested donation event, so you can buy tickets through our website or online through the link in the Facebook page. And we're also, as Elsa mentioned, there's a whole lot of advocacy efforts going forward along certain pathways for housing related issues, both at the state level and at the national level. And there's a couple of things, one in particular that you all are probably aware of, but now would be a good time to contact our representatives and any connections you have in DC to support the Charitable Act. There's a new package moving forward in the House and Senate, considering the possibility of allowing donations, allowing a fully deductible donation for people in certain income categories. It creates a non-itemized tax deduction. So basically, you can take it off your taxes if this goes forward and passes. So it's Senate Bill 317, I believe. Sorry, I'm not more well informed. I didn't come very prepared for this meeting, but I did want to kind of put it on your radar so that you can advocate for it should you wish to. And I think that's all I have right now.
Okay, just to follow up, I looked on Facebook and it is June 28th from 12 to 3, Zydeco Rhythms for a Reason with Gino Delafosse.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for doing my job.
No, come on now. So yes, and then that Senate Bill 317, I dropped it in the chat, so keep an eye on that. Call your representatives and senators. Um, Anyone else have any announcements that they'd like to offer?
Yeah, thank you for that. My name's Tom Newland. I represent 3D Print Group. Our core business is printing houses out of cement, which is has a lot of application for what we're talking about. Very durable interior walls can be built very economically, and we have our own uh, charitable organization that's part of our group, and very interested in working on affordable housing and that entire network. We just recently, although the technology and our experience is over several years, we just recently incorporated our company and brought in people with different skill sets, access to international markets. But very interested in working with people in the homeless, realm and affordable housing. So
Well, welcome, Tom. Love new faces. If you don't mind, can you send me your information? Just drop it in the chat,
sure,
either to everyone or to me specifically, and I will definitely connect you with people who are going to want to pick your brain.
love to. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, Melinda, just because I've got a lot going on, if there's any, Carrie asked if there was a bill number for the house.
For the Charitable Act,
Mm-hmm.
I'll follow up and send you that information. I don't have it in front of me right now, but
Perfect.
I just have the S number that you put in the chat.
And Carrie, I'll push it out through a newsletter. Thank you. All right, any other announcements? I want to make sure we have plenty of time for Joe. But want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to share. Okay. All right. Well, I would love to welcome Joe here in Mueller. I've had the pleasure of working with Joe. I know you're going to learn so much, and just really honored to have this opportunity to have a conversation with you. Joe, if you don't mind, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your journey to this work, what your role is, I think both at Unity and with the Louisiana Advocacy Coalition on Homelessness.
Thank you, Elsa. It's really an honor actually to be talking with all of you and with your group. I work in the New Orleans COC region. Unity of Greater New Orleans is a nonprofit continuum of care serving Orleans and Jefferson parishes. I have worked for Unity over the last 14 years in a role that has me as a director of community engagement, working with folks who are volunteering and assisting folks like yourselves move in. We have an operation not too dissimilar from the Share House in Acadiana. But I also have come over the last couple of years to work on advocacy related issues in our area. I'm a person with way back experience of homelessness, and we have been guided in large part by people with lived experience in trying to highlight the needs of folks like them uh, for state, local, and federal advocacy. It had became clear to us and in conversations with Elsa and leaders of other COCs that there was a need for a more robust state level advocacy around issues related to homelessness and housing justice. And out of that grew the Louisiana Advocacy Coalition on Homelessness. This group planned the first of what we hope will be an annual Homelessness Action Day that took place on Thursday, May 1st, from which over 80 people turned out from all corners of South Louisiana. And I think we had people even from beyond attend to speak to legislators at the state level about the work that is needed to be done in that area. And I'm very glad to be doing that and happy to answer any kind of questions that y'all might have today around that.
I think if you don't mind, if you can kind of start with what bills do we need to be paying attention to? Maybe a basic rundown about them. I think we've been working particularly at the state level, but if there's any additional federal bills that you're keeping an eye on.
Sure. Well, as we are very much keeping an eye on a couple things at the federal level. Number one, the the ha housing, the homeless assistance grants and TBRA budget in the, in part as part of the overall spending bill. The House bill that I believe passed this morning includes substantial cuts to those programs if they're in keeping with what the president proposed. I haven't actually looked very closely at the House budget, but we know that the president proposed very significant cuts to those programs, and we actually believe in following the guidance of the National Alliance that there needs to be expansion just to meet the needs of the workforce, let alone the growing rents that we see year over year. Also at that federal level, we're looking at Medicaid, cuts to Medicaid. And that's because as everybody here, I'm sure, is aware, Medicaid is a primary vehicle for the service provision to people receiving permanent supportive housing in our state. And it's the fact that Louisiana expanded Medicaid really has made it a lot easier for us to navigate people out of homelessness and into housing programs. Cuts to Medicaid in our state would likely be devastating to folks, who are still extremely low income, but potentially who could lose services or access to services or be thrown off Medicaid rolls for a variety of reasons. So we really don't want to see that happen. We're going to continue to monitor that and work with folks across the state on those issues. And I'm sure you all try to stay in tune on that. I learned a lot, Elsa, just from what you were talking about earlier. But I would like to really focus on, and with that out of the way, really focus on a couple of bills that are happening at the state legislature. The first one is Senate Bill 196. That was a bill. That bill is very problematic because it would outlaw unauthorized camping, and that would become a crime in the state of Louisiana, punishable on the first offense by up to 6 months in jail and a $500 fine. And on the second offense, someone found, or subsequent offense, somebody found guilty of unauthorized camping by a judge or jury would be guilty of a felony, punishable by up to 2 years in prison with a minimum of 1 year and a minimum of $1,000 fine. So these are very serious penalties. It passed through the Senate Judiciary B Committee by a vote of 4 to 3, and it has been waiting for a vote in the Senate for the last 3 weeks. The fact that it has not been voted on for a 3-week period is a good indication that the senators may drop this bill, but it is by no means a guarantee that it will be dropped. If after I get off, I'll drop a link into a contact form where you can write a letter to your senators, representatives regarding Senate Bill 196. So we will share that in this link. This is put out by our partners at the Louisiana Fair Housing Action Center. And they also have an action on the other bill that we're monitoring closely, and that is House Bill 619. House Bill 619 also makes it illegal to camp in public. However, it does not include, thankfully, any provisions for criminal penalties. Nonetheless, its mechanism for enforcement is something called the private right of action, meaning that if in any subdivision, in other words, a chartered city or a parish, If in any subdivision there is a presence of an encampment for um, for a period of time, and the subdivision's authorities are notified of that presence, if it is not removed within 90 days, a person, business, nonprofit within 1,000 feet of that encampment or the state's attorney general can sue the subdivision um, based on the presence of that encampment. We think that that would put nonprofit service providers and COCs and cities or municipalities where homeless services exist in a adversarial position with one another rather than a collaborative position, because those entities would be um, highly motivated to move people around or threaten folks with arrest if they don't move. Not necessarily, obviously, they couldn't be arrested for public camping uh, under this statute if it passes, um, but they could be arrested or charged for some other reason, or for unauthorized camping if Senate Bill 196 becomes law. So we think that that is one problematic aspect of the bill, but there are other problematic aspects of the bill, which include provisions for designated campgrounds. Designated campgrounds or sanctioned encampments has been uh, a preferred method of dealing with organic encampments in some places, particularly in California. But it's not a recognized best practice because they draw resources away from the housing navigation process, generally speaking, and they are difficult to close down. And while they may work for some folks, they don't work for everybody, and they are often paired with, as we have seen in media reports in places where they have instituted designated camping areas, they're often paired with coercive responses by law enforcement to get folks to move from one place to the other or to go into designated camping areas where they may or may not have access to the services and housing opportunities that they need. But finally, the most concerning aspect of this legislation is an amendment that was added lately. Last week, there was an amendment to this bill, which provides for continuums of care and any homeless service provider who receives public money from a requirement to report to the legislative auditor of the state and to the municipality, if requested, a variety of different data points and information that they could require relative to homeless services, what's provided, and the effectiveness of those services. There's no problem with wanting to get that information out and making it more public. In fact, I think as your continuum of care is all in the state make regular reports based on their contracts with state, local, or federal providers. However, the statute here does not include any limitations as a contract would relative to reporting as to when information could be requested. In other words, it could be requested at any time and for any reason. And while there are strict protections as to how data and information can be used by the Louisiana legislative auditor, there are no such protections in the statute as to how information could be used by municipalities. And this poses a problem because our ability to get folks' houses only as good as our trust that we can build with them. And if people feel like their information or their data cannot be trusted, that's going to make it difficult for us to work to house people. And some of the requests that have been made by the Louisiana legislative auditor of continuums of care have conflicted with federal privacy regulations. If not for that, we might not have these concerns, but there has been, as some of you may be aware, there has been an ongoing request by the Louisiana legislative auditor for the full database of all homeless service providers in the state. And this amendment was made at the same time as we tried to enter into an agreement with the legislative auditor to end that that's the suit over that information. So the problem is not sharing data or information on how people are housed, how effective our programs is. The concern is how do we make sure that we protect the private health information, the personally identifiable information, the personally protected information that people have a right to expect privacy on. How do we make sure that our data, the data belonging to our clients or the data belonging to agencies who are serving clients who may not even belong to or may not even be served by a federal or state or locally funded program, but they may have, received services at a private shelter. That information needs to be protected. We have an obligation to do so. And for that reason, we really think that this amendment, this section of the law needs to be removed. Unfortunately, that bill passed through the House chamber yesterday, despite extraordinary opposition from service providers, housing advocates, and continuums of care from a variety of places across the state, calling, writing, even attending the hearing yesterday. It passed. It will go to the House most likely next week for a vote. And if it passes the House, it will move to the Senate. We will have some more opportunities to speak to House members and senators, but now is a very, very opportune time to reach out to your representatives. Let them know particularly about the privacy concerns and the conflicts that this legislation could put service providers in. We have heard from some service providers that they would be concerned about how the provisions of this bill, in light of the legislative auditor's history of requesting protected information, how that could affect their ability to maintain their federal contracts and maintain the fidelity to the requirements of those contracts. I know that all of this may sound a little bit in the weeds, so I'd like to pause here and make sure that I'm able to answer any questions that you all might have about this legislation.
Okay.
Sounds like I'm not hearing anything. People understand it. I
Oh,
will
Constance just took herself off mute. Yeah.
I don't have any questions, but I'll certainly follow up and be active on this. Thank you so much for bringing this information.
You're welcome. As an analogy, I noticed that your email address has oshner.org. I'd like to make an analogy that might be salient for folks. To say that that homeless service providers should be accountable for the money that they receive from the public and to who is served, how many people is served, and how effective that service is absolutely and a totally legitimate request. No doubt about it. We need to be doing that. We need to be communicating that to the general public, to the people who we serve, to our funders. Absolutely. But to say that the private information or the details of all of our recipients of service, whether or not the funding for that service came from the federal government or the state government or even local governments, to say that information should be accessible to the state government through the Louisiana legislative auditor or to municipal governments based on the fact that some recipients in our systems received state aid, that all people's information should be available is a non-starter. You can't imagine that private. I can't imagine that private non-for-profit hospitals would turn over the databases of all of their care recipients based on the fact that some of their recipients receive federal or state assistance. It's unthinkable, and our HMIS files are just as sensitive. And we need to make sure that we're standing up for our patients' rights, or our clients' rights and responsibilities, and protecting our own selves from being compromised by overreaching requests for data. I want to be clear. This legislation does not specifically state that we would have to turn over people's private and personal information. However, what we know in practice is that the Louisiana legislative auditor has stated that they believe that that information should be accessible to the Louisiana legislative auditor at any request. In other words, in the most recent case, they did not differentiate between performance data describing what we do that is de-identified and the entire HMIS database, including people's personally identifiable information. I want to make sure that's clear. This legislation doesn't specifically call for turning over people's information, but what we know politically speaking is that the affected or the specifically indicated state body has expressed their belief that that information should be accessible. And so that's where we see a problem. It would be much better, and it would be much wiser, let me say, that the information about oversight for state and local service provision of homeless services, that be conducted by the Louisiana Interagency Council on Homelessness. You may not be aware that we have such a body, but that body was established by state statute in 2023. The body has only met twice because it was only called by the Louisiana Housing Corporation in December for the first time to meet. They have another meeting scheduled for June, and they are working to present a plan to address homelessness, to give a description to the legislature and the governor, who they're charged with advising on homelessness, on the causes and the best practices to end homelessness. This requirement, if the legislatures would like to create something, would be appropriately seated with the Louisiana Interagency Council, not with local governments, not with the legislative auditor, who do not have the competencies to evaluate the performance of homeless service providers. They're just simply, that's not their skill set. They perform financial audits and they perform performance audits of state agencies. The performance audit of Unity, the Continuum of Care in New Orleans, was the very first audit of a nonprofit, the very first performance audit of a nonprofit organization in the state of Louisiana that was not established by an act of the state. So there was one prior performance audit of a nonprofit corporation, the Louisiana Cancer Institute or Cancer Center. That organization was established by an act of the state. We're a private nonprofit corporation. We're the first to undergo a performance audit, which we did so voluntarily because we believe in transparency. But this new bill, HB 619, is written, could subject other nonprofits, other COCs to similar types of performance audits. And there is nothing in the provision that requires other non-homeless service providing agencies to provide their impact or service information to local or state authorities. So in other words, this is a way of treating homeless service providers in a way that is distinct and different from other nonprofit organizations in the state. I will shortly drop in to the the chat the information on these action alerts, and I'll share them as well with Elsa so that you can circulate them among your members if you desire.
Absolutely. So, I want to, what have you learned doing this work?
Well, so this state level advocacy is very new to me. For a couple of years, I've been working on like federal funding level advocacies and stuff like that in the local realm, but this is quite new to me this year. Um, I have learned that there is a great deal of interest, much more than I thought, at the state legislature in homelessness, in learning about homelessness, in understanding the causes of homelessness. There's slightly less interest in addressing that in an effective way, and there's not a great deal of sophistication in understanding what the causes of homelessness are. So that's really incumbent on us as providers to do a better job of communicating to the public, to our legislators. Okay, what, where is this coming from, and how do we address it? I think there continues to be a very a latent understanding that homeless folks are a relatively static and distinct group of people, as opposed to a more nuanced understanding that many people can fall into homelessness because of their poverty or medical vulnerabilities, and that we need to, if we want to address homelessness effectively, create systems that allow for flow out of homelessness and into housing. We don't want to obviously accelerate a flow into homelessness, but the housing systems, the injustices and the inefficiencies in the housing systems that drive homelessness are far beyond our control. So what we can control, we need to control, and what we can't, we need to make clear to our legislators. Yes, many people who are homeless experience mental illness or substance abuse crises. We need to improve the levels of support in the mental health field, in the substance abuse field, not simply for people who experience homelessness, but for everybody. And it should be tailored where it needs to be to help those most vulnerable folks. But simply by getting folks to uh, drug treatment, we can't expect that to also address their homelessness. And simply getting folks into a house doesn't mean that all their housing needs will always be met. And so there's a real need to make sure that people understand that that the ongoing funding that permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing programs have for people, that is locked up in maintaining those folks. And I think there's a real need to make sure that people understand that aspect of it. It's a dynamic that is maybe not intuitive to everyone. So that's something I've learned, and hope that we can make some headway
Yeah.
in communicating that with our legislators. Certainly, while we don't welcome this legislation that has come up, it has given us an opportunity to talk to people about things in a way that we maybe haven't before. We hope that that will be effective.
Is there a way for an organization who is interested in being directly involved with the Louisiana Advocacy Coalition on Homelessness to get involved?
Absolutely. My email address is in the chat, and I'll drop it in there again. If you email me, I will add you to our list. We had been meeting on a every other week basis through the state legislative session, although our last two meetings were canceled because they were timed to correspond to hearings on bills that were of concern to us. I don't expect that to continue. We're scheduled to meet again on the first Wednesday of June. So that's June 4th. I believe our meeting is set for 10 a.m. on Zoom, and we have folks from around the state joining. So if your organization or if you as an individual would like to join the Advocacy Coalition, please shoot me an email and I will add you to our calendar invite. As we go on, I imagine our group, which formed, I think, for the first time in January, will become more formal and develop outside of the session, probably less frequently than every 2 weeks, but we'll meet on an ongoing basis.
And I just want to say, like, you do not have to have an encyclopedic understanding of everything governmental in order to be an advocate. or even just drop in on advocacy meetings, right? You can have a cheat sheet in front of you. A lot of times cheat sheets are provided for you. You do not have to be an incredibly eloquent speaker in order to use your voice. Similarly to like your local city council or parish council meetings, you show up, you have a card. It says, do you want to speak? Do you not want to speak? Do you just want to say that you're in opposition or support? It's incredibly interesting, even if you don't speak, to get involved. And it's incredibly empowering, to know that you are part of the system. Our legislators, even when they forget this, work for us. And so they are beholden to us. And you have a special role as a housing or homelessness provider or adjacent provider, that they are especially beholden to you in those areas. And so please, take a baby step, and if you don't know what you're doing, reach out to me, reach out to Joe. And we will walk alongside you until you know more than we do.
Also, I can't. That was so well said. I want to like really underline that if I can, because my main job at Unity for the last 14 years has been delivering furniture. Okay. I don't have some special training in advocacy, and I got deep into the weeds with you just a few minutes ago, but it's just something that I learned a little bit here and there over time. And the folks who have guided me are people who are also advocates, but they're also people from the streets, folks who with lived experience of homelessness, who have deep in their hearts the knowledge that they have something to give back based on their experience of homelessness. And everybody on this call has something to give back because we are far more expert in this than our legislators. And that doesn't take anything away from them. It just speaks to how much we know and how we can be of service to them. And in the work that I have done in this regard, I'm I have been impressed by how grateful people are for the education on the services we provide. And I really do think we need to do more. It's not something that once you take a little baby step is really all that intimidating. But if you need someone to hold your hand, that's what we're here to do, until we're all there together. And that is something I think that I've learned from not only from other people in the housing field, but from folks who are active in other fields that are of concern to me, who have made these big strides and that we can take as guidance to us along the way. So shooting an email, a personalized phone call, hey, and it doesn't always have to be wagging our finger and saying, like, this is what you did wrong. It can just be like, hi, Representative, Senator, Councilman so and so. Like, I want to let you know that I'm here. I'm a person with this type of experience in homelessness, and I want you to know when you have an issue or you have a question, please reach out to me, because if I don't know the answer, I'll do my best to put you in touch with somebody who can. And it's not usually the next week that they come back, but they do come back, and they do have that. And building those relationships are really what can be helpful in times like this that we're in, where the pressure is high and the stakes are higher, and we have the support that we need to make the changes that the folks that we serve deserve.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I want to see if there's any last minute questions or comments. Just go ahead and take yeah, Carrie, what's up?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't find raise my hand on the screen here. Oh, that's great what you're doing. We really appreciate it. I know you do homelessness. Do you also do housing advocacy?
We do, yeah. We work in partnership with Fair Housing Action Center and other state and local housing advocates to promote affordable housing advocacy and other housing justice issues.
Great. There's two bills right now in the House, 236 and House Bill 330. Those two deal with the a tax deduction on your insurance premiums, and especially down here in South Louisiana with all the hurricanes, our insurance is going crazy, and a lot of people on fixed incomes, and they're having a hard time paying for the insurance. And both of those bills are just sitting there, are not moving at all. I know if we advocate for them, that we could maybe help pushing one or the other along. One has a certain deductible amount. It has to be over 3,000. The other one doesn't give a minimum amount of tax write-off when you state taxes. But those are something y'all might want to take a look at. And I always talk to Billy with Faith House. He always seems like every year has a bill that or two that they're pushing also to help with the programs they support. But we've been doing it for a number of years. A lot of them give good response when you contact them. I've been told by some of them that they don't respond to chain letters. They rather just one or two sentences from a constituent in their area, and they really appreciate it and act on that. And other ones, it seem like you're talking to a brick wall, you get no response back, but at least you keep trying and support what you're doing.
So Carrie, I jotted both of those House bills down, but what you're also saying is you're going to jump on these advocacy calls too, right?
Well, yes, I'll wait for that to come up on his contact in the chat
Okay,
here.
perfect. Perfect. Yeah. And I'll make sure Billy Lacombe is also looped in. And what's also great about those calls is you get to hear about neat things that are happening across the state. You know, I think that a lot of innovative things often happen in New Orleans and they know one another. But it's also an opportunity for us to hear about neat things that are happening everywhere and to learn from those other advocates and movement workers across the state. So like I said, I'm so sorry. We got to go. Joe, this is not going to be the only time I ask you to jump on one of these calls. Thank you also to everyone who came today. I saw some new faces and I appreciate you. And those of you who come every month, of course. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns before we meet again, which will be June 26th at noon. And I hope that you have a really peaceful and reflective Memorial Day weekend. Thank you all so much. Hang on if you're staying for the HMIS training. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So for everybody who's here for the HMIS training, we're going to give about 3 more minutes to make sure everybody comes in, and then we'll get going.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I'm going to turn it over to you in just 2 seconds.
Awesome. Thank you.